It's curious, isn't it, how just when things look as if they might actually move forward, Russia is the one to pull back. Russia's curt dismissal, or rather Sergei Lavrov's curt dismissal of the Vatican as a viable venue for peace negotiations with Ukraine, is interesting, isn't it? It's an act that masquerades as theological tidiness, but is in truth rooted in global reality, in paranoia, in judicial inconvenience. The Russian Foreign Minister, Lavrov, claims that holding talks in the Vatican would be inelegant, as it would involve two Orthodox Church Christian nations gathering under the shadow of Rome's Catholic basilicas. And this is not about elegance, it's about evasion. And it's not true, of course. The Ukrainian Catholic churches are significant. Pope Leo XIV, newly elected pontiff and the first US-born Bishop of Rome, has signalled a willingness to hold peace talks, and his gesture was received warmly by Kyiv and several Western leaders, including Ursula von der Leyen and President Macron. Even Zelensky, in a symbolic moment, gifted the Pope an icon painted on artillery debris, a relic of war turned into a token of peace. The Holy See, with its long tradition of quiet diplomacy, offered more than a location. It offered neutrality, moral authority, and a spiritual framework capable of transcending national grievances. Also, it hoped. Lavrov, speaking at the Diplomatic Academy in Moscow, dismissed the Vatican with a raised eyebrow and a raised drawbridge. He said it would not be comfortable for Orthodox delegations to negotiate under Catholic auspices. This appeal to ecclesiastical decorum is patently insincere and absurd. First, Moscow has not been bashful about Orthodox Catholic collaboration when it suited them. In fact, Putin's own alignment with Patriarch Kirill has often been framed as a holy crusade against secular liberalism. Second, Lavrov's claim ignores the fact that Ukraine's Orthodox Church has largely broken away from Moscow's ecclesiastical authority, preferring independence and indeed Istanbul, the ecumenical patriarchate, over Moscow's long shadow. In truth, the Vatican is disqualified not because of theology, but because of geography. It's embedded in Italy, a NATO member. Rome is under EU jurisdiction, and the International Criminal Court's warrant for Putin's arrest hovers in the background like some sort of disease. And if Vladimir Putin was to step foot on Italian soil, he might not step out again. That is the subtext Lavrov dare not utter aloud. Direct flights from Moscow to Italy cancelled. Russian officials sanctioned. The optics of arriving at St. Peter's in handcuffs unthinkable. One Russian official joked with venomous wit that only The Hague would be a more appropriate venue, given it actually plans to arrest him. The last round of talks in Istanbul collapsed under the weight of Russia's maximalist demands, and Moscow insisted Ukraine cede 4 territories it doesn't even fully control, and Zelensky offered a ceasefire and a direct summit. Russia declined. Yet even in the middle of these failures, the Vatican stepped forward, not with force but with faith. Pope Leo XIV has quietly built rapport with both sides. He's met Zelensky, he's engaged with Patriarch Shevchuk of Ukraine, he's advocated for the return of abducted children, he's even helped secure the release of Ukrainian Catholic priests tortured in captivity, and yet Moscow spurns the offer. Why? The truth is, Russia doesn't want peace. It isn't ready for peace, not substantially, not symbolically. When Lavrov calls something inelegant, he is in fact saying inconvenient. The Kremlin needs war. It wants war. It defines Putin's regime. It keeps Putin in power, at least in the fridge. It distracts from economic stagnation and internal repression. It justifies martial law, censorship, corruption, conscription. Zelensky, by contrast, has repeatedly declared his willingness to negotiate, providing it is not negotiation of surrender. So, Russia's rejection of the Vatican is not a snub of Catholicism, it's a rebuff of peace under any conditions not dictated by Moscow. It's a statement that diplomacy is a performance, and that real politics still reigns. So, where do we go from here? The Vatican remains an emblem of what diplomacy ought to be: principled, patient, pastoral. Russia, for now, seeks stage-managed negotiations in friendlier places: Doha, Muscat, Riyadh, places where warrants don't chase their shadows. But we must not mistake Lavrov's ecclesiastical posturing for sincerity. This is not about liturgy, it's about law, about image, about impunity. I'd always thought Lavrov was a little bit above all this sort of nonsense, but, once you have association with the excremental reality of evil, rather like a roll of loo paper, you get smeared, and Lavrov is smeared. He's covered in it. And until Russia is willing to treat peace as more than a tactical pause between offensives, the venue is irrelevant. Whether in Rome or Riyadh, talks without truth are simply posturing. And we, as citizens, observers, participants, must resist mistaking performance for progress.